exercise maximum restraint. Over the past 3 days, airstrikes have taken place between Iran and Israel, with the United States also heavily involved. These airstrikes have resulted in Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, being killed. In retaliation, Iran's military has launched strikes targeting American bases across several countries in the region. Alfa Ramushana has more.
The conflict between Iran and Israel is now spilling over into neighboring countries, with explosions heard across several Gulf states. Reports indicate that Iranian forces have deployed drones targeting American military bases in Qatar, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates. The ANC says these developments demonstrate that conflicts threatening international peace cannot be resolved through military standoffs. The party has stressed that lasting peace can only be achieved through dialogue, meaningful negotiations, and a genuine commitment to coexistence. Meanwhile, the South African government has echoed this view, warning that continued missile exchanges will only escalate tensions further. Alfa Ramshwana, Eyewitness News.
Meanwhile, in the National Assembly, Parliament's finance chairpersons say they are concerned by the impact the Middle East unrest is going to have on the national budget. Last week, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana tabled a budget which has been labelled a turning point for the country's finances just days before the United States and Israel invaded Iran. The chairperson of Parliament's Standing Committee, Joe Mswanganyi, says there's little doubt that the latest turmoil will impact the entire continent. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
With Parliament's Finance Committee set to start interrogating the budget and invite public participation, Standing Committee Chairperson Joe Mswanganyi says the latest geopolitical tensions will impact the cost of oil. In South Africa, this will have a knock-on effect on transport costs, industry and household expenses.
We can't be here and say we're not worried about what's happening there. We are very worried because it has got a direct impact on our economy and the countries that we trade with.
Chairperson of Parliament's Appropriations Committee, Musi Maimane, agrees that the consequences will be profound.
In a world with suppressed GDP growth, let alone that, the importance of sovereignty of nations must always be upheld.
Both Mswanganyi and Maimane say the violation of international law and the attacks of one nation on another must be condemned. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
At the same time, South Africans stuck in the United Arab Emirates are sharing their eyewitness accounts amidst the ongoing airstrikes. Israel and the United States, the joint strike on Iran, killing their supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, over the weekend. The United Arab Emirates has since closed their airspace and cancelled all flights to and from South Africa. KFM presenter Tracy Lang is among those stranded in Dubai.
Life is pretty normal on the ground. There's no panic. There is no frenzy. There are consistent updates from the government to let us know what is happening, what are they doing at this point. It's just there's a lot of communication all the time.
She adds that children can still be seen playing outside as citizens still feel safe.
Yesterday, kids were running and playing outside. The restaurants were open. People were out and about. I think it is very unknown for us as South Africans. And I think that is why there can be a bit of panic and a bit of worry because we don't know this kind of thing.
The Madlanga Commission of Inquiry says it will no longer tolerate witnesses conveniently falling ill just before they are due to appear before it. This comes after controversial Northwest businessman Brown Mokgotsi failed to appear today, citing illness without producing a medical certificate. Mokgotsi became the fifth witness to have his hearing postponed due to illness. The Madlanga Commission is racing against time to complete its work, with its deadline set for March 17th. The Commission's chairperson, Jeremy Michaels, says the matter has been taken seriously.
I think the commissioners, through Justice Madlanga, have clearly indicated that they are not going to tolerate witnesses, coming up with last-minute illnesses, and they certainly are taking it very seriously.
Meanwhile, in the National Assembly, forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan is set to continue his testimony on Thursday before Parliament's ad hoc committee investigating corruption in the criminal justice system. O'Sullivan stormed out of proceedings last week after indicating that he had a flight to catch. This angered members of the committee, who agreed that O'Sullivan must be summoned and forced to appear. During its housekeeping meeting today, the ad hoc committee received a legal opinion on O'Sullivan's walkout and its legal options, but O'Sullivan has since agreed to come back voluntarily. Evidence leader Norman Arendse.
In relation to Mr. O'Sullivan himself, he has confirmed that he will be in attendance on Thursday. One, to conclude the questioning by Advocate Mkhize. I think she had 2 or 3 questions left.
And the South African Weather Service has issued a yellow level 2 warning for severe thunderstorms in Gauteng. The rainy weather conditions are expected to persist throughout the day, with the Weather Service warning of the likelihood of damaging winds, hail and excessive lightning. Spokesperson Lehlohonolo Tabela has urged motorists to keep a safe following distance and avoid low-lying bridges.
We're still expecting partly cloudy conditions into the afternoon, warm temperatures for the southern parts of Gauteng, with still a 30% chance of showers and thunder showers still expected into the afternoon.
At the same time, the Ekurhuleni Disaster and Emergency Management Services has urged motorists to conduct roadworthy checks before heading out on the roads in rainy weather conditions. Spokesperson William Ntladi says pedestrians should also be careful and refrain from crossing flooded water streams, while motorists are urged to avoid low-lying bridges.
The City of Ekurhuleni Disaster and Emergency Management Services is on high alert following heavy downpours experienced in some parts of the city earlier this morning, including over the weekend. This far, no life-threatening emergencies were reported and serviced by the city's emergency services.
Gold's trading at $5,388.84 an ounce. The rand's at 16.07 to the dollar, at 21.54 to the pound, at 18.86 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $78.53 a barrel.
And in the traffic in Bedfordview, we've got delays along the N12 West between the Edenville Road exit and the Giluli's interchange. There's also queuing traffic reported on the M2 West between the Crown interchange and Main Reef Road.
A look at your weather. It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng with isolated showers and thunder showers expected today. Temperatures have peaked at highs between 24 and 27 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. The ANC has joined calls for all countries involved in the ongoing tensions in the Middle East to exercise maximum restraint.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Live
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7.
And 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Good afternoon and welcome to 702 Afternoons with me, Khomotsa Modise. I'm in for Relebogile this afternoon, and it's such a joy to be in your company at this nippy Monday. It is a chilly day. I've been feeling a bit of chill in the air. I don't know about you. I've been seeing signs of our old friend winter. They seem to be peeping through. Or am I being dramatic? I hope you're having a fantastic Monday today, and I hope you had a fantastic weekend. If you are a Kaizer Chiefs fan, I know that's not the case. But Khutlabashab, you'll be fine. Hopefully, we can help you forget over the next 2 hours. Coming up on the show, it's a Monday, so we talk movies and what to stream with Adelaide Moeng. Looking forward to hearing from her from the Joburg Film Festival, where she currently is. We also have the travel feature, and today we're talking about new cruise destinations that you probably haven't been considering. I'm looking forward to that conversation. In the second hour, we have our parenting feature. And today we're going to be talking about developmentally delayed parents and raising children as a parent with cognitive or developmental disabilities. We often speak about children who have developmental challenges. But what about being a parent who is born and living with these challenges? And have you been parented by a mother, a father, any of your parents who have had developmental disabilities? I want to hear from you. Get in touch with us for that conversation. We'll then wrap up the show with The Naked Scientist, where we take all your science questions. In the afternoon, or on the afternoon drive today, we have Abele, who's our technical producer. The lovely Pachida is taking your calls. Mike Imalapo is on the traffic, and Amor Ramela is watching the roads. Get in touch with us. Join us, or join the conversation on 011 883 0702. Otherwise, send us a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702. If you want to get in touch with me on X, my handle is at @Motso_Modise.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
So I hope that you've been having a good week, or that you had a good weekend and you got a bit of rest in. It was an emotionally challenging weekend for me as a Corsi fan. I can tell you that, I've been going through a lot of emotions, from anger at some point. I think I was a little angry, or maybe just a little upset. And then I was a little sad. I had to leave my house to go to the gym because, the gentleman that I live with happens to be an Orlando Pirates fan. And I didn't want any of that energy near me. But I hope that you took the loss a little better than I did if you are a Kaizer Chiefs fan. If you're an Orlando Pirates fan, Aska. And you know what I mean by that? That basically means, okay, we understand, we get it, you won, okay? Yes, it's been, I'm glad that this weekend is over, and I'm glad that the days keep moving, and hopefully all your jokes will get old. I've been speaking to a couple of friends, and I actually had a friend, I saw a friend this weekend who asked me a really interesting question as we were driving. I happened to be driving, and I was in the fast lane, and I was driving in the fast lane for quite a bit of time. And she asked me, where are we rushing to? And I said, what do you mean? And she said, no, why are you in the fast lane? And I said, I didn't even realize that I'm driving in the fast lane. I've realized that that's actually something that I get asked quite a bit, also by my husband, And then I was thinking, actually, this is actually a bad driving habit. And I thought maybe we should have that conversation about how we've normalized bad driving in South Africa. And there's just those habits that have creeped in our driving. After you get your license, you are such a meticulous driver. You indicate at every turn. You make sure that your all the blind sides. You make sure K53 is at the top of your mind. And then after some time, I just think, like everything that gets old, your bad habits just start creeping in. And that actually had me thinking, what are some of those bad habits that we've normalized in South Africa that are part of the problem? I can tell you, in parts of South Africa, some believe they're better than others. Cape Town drivers, because that friend of mine is actually from Cape Town. Cape Town drivers believe that Johannesburg drivers are not so great. And I've been having the conversation with my colleagues now, just as I've been, preparing for the show. And I've been thinking, what are some of the bad habits that you have let creep into your driving? And what are some of those bad driving habits that we've normalized? Staying in the fast lane, I will say, I'll be the first person to admit, is one of my bad driving habits. I know that I should not be staying in the lane. I should be using it as an emergency lane, I've been told, and, let people pass. I think another one that's crept in quite a bit is just forgetting the safe following distance. I know that's a big one, where people just, they right on top of you, and you can see them, and you can see that if I were to hit my brakes now, it would be a disaster. So I want to hear from you. What are some of those bad driving habits that we've normalized in South Africa? And are we all part of the problem? Because I really think we are. I think there must be a sense of accountability. I've been tracking my steps. I've been trying to see, even as I was driving to work today, to see what are some of the bad habits that I've allowed to creep in. And could I be contributing to some of, the habits that other people develop and, ultimately could result in terrible accidents? What are some of those habits that you've identified? And what are some of those that you just can't take? Like for me, I think one that I can't take, one habit that I just can't take, is when someone doesn't keep a safe following distance. What you're not going to do is drive on top of me right behind me, and I don't know how to express my frustration. I think once I've told the person behind me who was really, really, really onto me that, listen, jump, I tried, make your way over, because what do you expect me to do, right? That didn't end very well, because that driver was a very angry driver. But I've realized that there are some terrible driving habits that we have just allowed to creep in. If you are as, self-aware, and you realize that you also have some bad driving habits that you've allowed to creep in, I want to hear from you. 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702. I see someone here saying, hi, Khomoso, sadly, we've normalized stopping anywhere on our roads so long as the hazard lights are on. It's really unsafe. I agree with that. That's a really, it's a horrible one that I've seen, where people will just stop. And they think that because they've switched on their hazards, it's okay. But the problem is the car behind you might recognize that you're stopping, but the cars behind that car might not. And if you are, because sometimes this happens on a highway, on a busy road, on freeways, and it causes really, really bad accidents. I've seen that quite a bit. That's a horrible, horrible habit that I think we have. And I've seen it actually a lot in Joburg. I wonder if that's the case in other parts of the country as well. I think another one is beating robots or traffic lights at night or when we think it's okay to do so. Even on roads that are not so busy. On my drive here, that's one that I observed from other drivers, where there's a little, a small street. Sometimes that street it goes into a dead end, and when you'll find people that think, because there's no traffic coming maybe from the left and very minimal traffic coming from the right, then I can just drive even though the traffic light is red. That's a horrible habit. It's a really, really bad one. In the night, I'm really conflicted. Maybe this is one of my other ones that I must take accountability for. Having worked late in the night, whenever I'm driving back home in the early AMs, so 2 a.m., maybe 3 a.m., I don't stop at the traffic lights. And I don't stop because I'm scared. This is South Africa, unfortunately. But I know that, I should be. And I know sometimes you get told, the advice that I've taken before was drive very slow as you're approaching the traffic lights. So drive extremely slow so you don't come to a complete stop. And by the time the traffic light is green, then you can drive. So I tried to apply that. But I can tell you now that many people, when they come to a red traffic lights, especially in the early AMs, they don't stop anymore. And I do think, that's not a good habit to have. I actually saw a video from someone on social media who was saying for her, she also works very very early in the morning. She has normalized stopping whether or not the lights are green in the early AMs because people just come flying at that time. And I thought, actually, maybe that might be me, Khomoso, who's a little anxious that it's 2 a.m. I don't want to stop at this traffic light. But there might be a person who really does have right of way and their traffic lights is green. I may be part of the problem. I may be contributing to this. And I think we must be self-aware when it comes to that. Sammy, you're in Centurion. Thank you for your call. Good afternoon.
Hi, Khomoso. One of the most notorious driving habits that people have normalized is using a cell phone while driving.
Yeah. Oh.
People will text while driving or answer a cell phone while driving. And it's impossible. It's been proven that it's impossible to focus on driving, even when you're talking on your cell phone. That is impossible. And when you're using a cell phone while driving, it contributes for 25% of road fatalities in South Africa.
There's this new trend that people have, especially people that like to scroll. So if they're on TikTok or on Instagram, they'll play those Instagram or TikTok videos as they drive, and they say, "No, I'm listening to them. I'm not watching them. I'm listening to them." But are you really?
You cannot concentrate while using your cell phone, and also with skipping the traffic light. And unfortunately, in South Africa, we're held hostage because the Department of Transport, and I'm gonna say this, and I know that some people that are loyal to the ANC might phone in and say stuff about me. Department of Transport in 2023 has made it abundantly clear that they're not willing to do anything about this. For them, it's just this is just mistakes. These are just bad habits. No, these are not bad habits. They should be classified as penal offense. I remember the city of Cape Town in the, I think, 2013.
Yeah.
They were saying that if you are going to text while driving, they're going to impound your car for 6 weeks. I don't know where they ended up with this. And you look at in Australia, they've got this artificial intelligence cameras.
Yeah.
If you are texting while driving and using a cell phone while driving, skip the traffic light, it's going to automatically capture you, and they're going to deal with you. You know, Australia is very powerful when it comes to law enforcement.
Yeah, maybe we need that
But
here,
in fact-
Sammy. Maybe we need the same because, there are major challenges here when it comes to our roads. And I think that the truth really is people are dying. We're losing lives. I mean, road fatalities every year, the numbers are alarming. And there are, campaigns, Arrive Alive campaigns and other campaigns that are launched quite regularly to address the road fatality issue. Someone here saying, hi, Khomoto, what really gets me boiling is witnessing kids not buckled up, standing in between the front seats while the car is moving. I really get so angry at that. Same. See, I actually feel the same way. Whenever I see children that are, standing in the car, no matter how short the distance is. I mean, the worst one really is, parents that think it's okay because they're just driving maybe one street down or just around, the neighborhood. They have their children sit with them in the front seat. I've seen that before. And I'm just thinking, in what world? You will never forgive yourself if your child doesn't make it alive from that. Never. And people still continue to do that. Sure, let's take some voice notes.
Good afternoon, Khomoto. Good afternoon to you and the team. Khomoto. Whenever to start with, I got a gentleman that I live with. Just because of favor pirates. The gentleman that I will live with, I hope by the end of this day it will be it will have gone back to love, Motwaka, not the gentleman that I live with, but home. Just because pirate
Listen, we've made progress. It was actually Abutole. It wasn't Tatole. It was that man. I was calling him that man on Saturday nights. And that's because he kept on calling me a loser. He was hurting my feelings, okay? He was calling me a loser. And he said, I'm a pretty loser. And, I was hurt. So I was calling him Tatole. That actually means that man. I was calling him that man, that guy. And then I called him Abuti Ole, which, means the same thing. And now we're making progress. Now he's the gentleman that I live with. Maybe by the end of this night, of this evening, he'll be back at my husband. Okay, let's take more voice notes.
Hey, Senzo here from Centurion. So those drivers that sit right on top of you on the fast lane or whichever lane that you are using, I've got a solution for them. I just hit a dead brake and you'll see him panicking. So it's his fault that is right there on top of me. It's not my fault at all. I'm going through the speed limit, and if he wants to sit now on my back, I'm going to hit the dead brake because now he's making me uncomfortable. I need to make him uncomfortable back. So I really don't panic. If he hits me, then I'll take care of it in terms of the accident. But I haven't been in one as yet, so it means they are vigilant. They're doing it actually on purpose.
Hi, Khomoto. Now for me, it's reducing the speed. When you're driving on the freeway and then someone comes flying and then they flick at you. So I automatically reduce my speed, like intentionally. So I reduce my speed to the lowest speed. And the bad thing about that is that I don't even think of the people coming behind the person who's flicking at me. So yeah, I think for me, it's when the person flicks on me. I hate it.
Yeah, and that tendency, we often hear that it's done by the drivers of this other brand that I won't talk about. There's this other brand of vehicle that people say, hey, those people will flick at you when you are in the first lane. And I know people that just say, I will not move. I think it's horrible when drivers do that. It makes me uneasy. It makes the driver that you found, let's say you found me in the fast lane, and now you're coming out of nowhere, or from nowhere, you're coming from behind, and now you start to flick, and sometimes it's in the night, and your lights are bright. It's just, there's no courtesy when it comes to that, but also you have no regard for your fellow man who's on the road with you. And that also really upsets me. I'm not quite as stubborn, so I don't camp in the lane. I'll move and let you go. Sometimes I'll flick back depending on how I feel, but generally I just think it's the most discourteous thing that you can do, and it gets so uncomfortable. I see someone here saying, good day, there's a new trend by especially taxis, e-hailing drivers. They now take compulsory lanes, turning either left or right, and they cut in front of traffic, especially at the robots. I've seen that a lot as well. where people, especially when traffic is congested, then people will decide that they're going to cut in and they're going to forget that these are turning lanes. If you are the person who's turning either left or right, then it's your problem, really, because now you need to wait for these people that are going straight. And oftentimes, the traffic lights flex for you to turn, but those people are not turning. They're not turning. They just decided that they want to be there to cut in. It really makes the roads so ungovernable. It makes it so difficult to navigate the roads. And yeah, listen, South African roads need you to just keep your emotions, right? And just sit on it and just be okay with the fact that you want to make it out alive. That's what we're trying to achieve here. But I'm taking some of your calls and your WhatsApps on what are some of those terrible habits that have just crept in, and are we normalizing bad driving in South Africa? Are we part of the problem? I am willing to admit that we are part of the problem. I do see on our Facebook line someone here saying there's definitely, if you can't beat them, join them attitude. Why should law-abiding citizens sit for an extra 30 minutes when every taxi and, in fact, second car pulls in? Yes. So you often see that where there's traffic and then there's the emergency lane, the yellow lane, and people, as soon as you see other cars driving in and you can see them, of course, racing to the front, people then just join. And that also makes the roads so bad. And I've seen cars that actually need to use the emergency lane, but they can't because it's been turned into an extra lane. That's a horrible habit that's crept in. I've seen it. It inconveniences everyone. And now the vehicle that was actually supposed to be in the emergency lane is causing even more congestion on the road in the normal lane when they could have just moved to the emergency lane, but you decided to use the emergency lane as a normal lane. Someone else here says, in Kempton Park, the following people use the bus lane: police officers, Ekurhuleni employees, taxis, scientific pest control, and waste management services. And that was just in one morning. You know what I've seen? I know people often say, whenever we're in traffic, then you find some vehicles, emergency vehicles, that just switch on the lights. And all of a sudden, maybe they were not in a rush or there was no emergency. And all of a sudden, because there's now traffic, the lights come on. And of course, we'll hear in the car. I'm sure it's not just in my car where someone will say, here, there's no emergency. They just want to avoid the road. They want to avoid the traffic. I'm sure I'm not the only person who has experienced that. And I'm sure I'm not the only person that's heard that being said. Someone in the car will just go, this one is lying. There's no emergency here. They just want to avoid the traffic. Let's take another voice note.
Hi, Khomotso. I think we need a serious intervention on people not sticking left and passing right. And what irritates me even more is when people justify it by saying that they're keeping to the speed limit, as if it's their job to police every other driver. But another habit that really, really just makes my blood boil is in a parking lot, so it's a place for people to park, people stopping with their hazards on the road where other cars are supposed to drive. It's literally a lot for people to park, but no, they want to park where other cars are supposed to drive. I just cannot stand it. This is TD.
Good afternoon, Khomotso. I hope you're good. So my bad driving habit is that I will stay behind you. I'm one of those guys. I will stay behind you. I'm not going to flick. I'm not going to hoot. I'm not going to ask you to get off the road, but I will stay on your behind, especially if you're driving slow. And if somebody flicks me and they want to pass, I just intentionally drive very slow, almost to a complete stop. Keep me anonymous, lest the JMPD are listening.
Good afternoon. One of the weirdest habits that's crept in on South African roads is that at an intersection like a stop street or a traffic light, we wait for a car that's turning to turn before the car that's going straight goes. A general rule on the road is if you're crossing somebody else's path, they have right of way if they're going straight. And it's much more efficient for both cars to launch and then the car that's turning to go behind the car that's going straight. Thanks, Justin.
Yes, that's another one, Justin, actually. And I've actually hesitated also when I'm in that situation, because now I don't know because I've always known that, the people that are driving, that are going, if you're going to come and cross, you want to turn in, then you should let the people go straight and then you turn. But I've hesitated because now that rule's been flouted. It's the same as, at the traffic circle, right? Where now it's almost as though if I got here first, I must go in. But that's not how it works. My understanding is once the people that are in the traffic circle are in it and they are on, coming from the right, they have right of way. So just because I got to the exit first, it doesn't mean that I should just join. That's my understanding, right? But it's a poor habit that's crept in. Now all of a sudden we treat a traffic circle like we treat a four-way stop, and that shouldn't be the case. We're taking more of your calls and WhatsApps on this right after the news. Maki Malapa standing by with our Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Khomotso. Good afternoon. Former National Director of Public Prosecutions, Bulelani Ngcuka, has detailed how the lack of resources at the establishment of the National Prosecutions Authority in 1998 hampered its ability to focus on cases arising from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission process. Ngcuka is giving evidence regarding delays in the prosecution of apartheid-era cases emanating from the TRC process during his tenure. He explained that resource constraints limited the NPA's capacity and forced difficult choices about which matters to prioritize. The Iranian Embassy in South Africa is in mourning following the assassination of the country's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Khamenei was killed in Israeli and American airstrikes over the weekend, sparking retaliatory attacks from Tehran. In response, the Iranian military has launched strikes on Gulf countries in the Middle East that are believed to be hosting U.S. military bases. And South African motorists are set to pay more at the pumps from Wednesday. The Mineral and Petroleum Resources Department has announced today that both grades of petrol will go up by 20 cents a litre, while diesel sees a steeper hike by 62 and 65 cents a litre. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at 2 o'clock or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Travelling in Bedfordview, we've got some delays on the N12 west towards the Kilulis interchange. There's also queuing traffic along the M2 west between the Crown interchange and Main Reef Road, while travelling in Protea Glen. Delays on the N12 west. This is just as you approach the R558. We do know that traffic lights are out of order at that intersection, and that's the reason for that queue. There's also queuing traffic on the N12 east heading towards Benoni. An accident reported. It's right near Atlas Road. It's causing heavy delays, so please be on the lookout. If you want to avoid this one, try to use the R24 through the R21. And then if you're traveling on the N3 north, we've got delays between Van Buren Road and the Kilulis interchange. In the city of Tshwane, there's some issues reported along the R21 north just as you approach the Flying Saucer turn off. So please be on the lookout there and continue driving with care. Otherwise, that's your last traffic update from me, Amo Ramila Kabazela. We'll have your next update from the top of the hour onwards. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
Where do you draw the line? Because now the concern is there may be a wider regional war because the UAE has been targeted, Qatar has been targeted, and they have released statements together with other countries in the Middle East saying that they have a right to also defend themselves.
About those neighboring countries, before anything happens, we warrant all of them. Is retaliation are not to their sovereignty or to their soil. It's just to the assets and the military bases of US and Israel, which is located there.
Dr. Hamid Reza Orai, political counselor of the Embassy of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Clement Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
In 2021, South African Airways' new journey started. And the journey has brought us here. Over 15 aircraft added to our fleet, thousands of new flights scheduled every year, and 19 routes on our map to connect you to more of the world. We're proud of how far we've come, but we're not finished yet. We're still raising our standards in the air and on the ground. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 Rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
It's your last chance to save with the Checkers Extravaganza. Save extra on deals like Danone Ultramel Custard 1 kg, 2 for 50 Rand. Save 20 Rand. Sir Fruit 100% fruit juice blend 1.5 litre, any 2 for 89 Rand. Save 20 Rand. And Pampers Jumbo Pack or Value Pack nappies or pants. Buy 3 and get the cheapest free. Valid until 8 March. Only at Checkers, Checkers Hyper, or shop on 6060.
702 and the Discount Foundation are shining the spotlight on the health matters you want to know more about. Here's what we explored this month.
We had the benefits of being introduced to Hearts of Hope and do a Christmas party with the children. These kids don't come from pleasant environments and they're not taken away because everything's okay. So they need to be treated gently and kindly and sometimes maybe a little bit firmly. And I think they get the balance so incredibly right. They're also one of our beneficiaries on our food garden. I get pictures of what's been cooked for the food from the nutritional produce we've provided. We don't have to check that things are being done properly.
In Conversation on Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by the Discount Foundation, caring for the community on 702.
702 Movies.
Welcome back. It's time for our movies and what to stream feature with Adelaide Mueng, and she joins us on the line. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Adelaide, good afternoon. You're joining us from the festivities of the Joburg Film Festival.
Ooh, it is so busy. Kumasa, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm running around with film fever.
Yes. I mean, I know that it's only really kicking off tomorrow, but it sounds to me like the busyness and the prep and everything is almost underway.
Yes, it is. There are a lot of things that are happening currently. The Joburg Film Festival is beginning tomorrow. However, obviously there are preparations happening at all of the different cinemas that are involved, where they will be screening some of the films. And I also actually had an opportunity to speak to the curator, Unkandla, from the Joburg Film Festival, and he actually gave us a little bit of insight for the people who don't really know anything about the festival and would love to go. I must preface that Joburg Film Festival makes sure to screen local films that haven't even been screened everywhere else in the world. So when you do go to the cinema, know that you are getting privileged access to films, documentaries, animations, short films, and student films as well, that they always try to make sure to screen for us local South Africans. Here's a little bit of the conversation that I actually had with him.
For somebody who's never really maybe heard of Joburg Film Festival, could you just give them an idea?
Yes. I mean, the Joburg Film Festival, we are a curated film festival event which seeks to showcase excellence in Pan-African and diasporic voices, to engage with social issues, social realities, celebrate the singular perspective of the auteur, and also just to celebrate African cinema. We call ourselves the premier African Film Festival. We are working towards that status. We're not there yet, but we want to be a platform that really brings, African cinema, the excellence of African cinema in a global context. And we want to be able to celebrate African films, but also, let them sit along some very, some international films as well, so that we can really compare the creativity and the beauty of African filmmakers and the stories that we tell.
And I know with Joburg Film Festival in particular, you guys always have a theme every year. And I just wanted to ask you, what is the theme for this year and what is the purpose behind it that goes along with some of the films you've curated specifically for Joburg Film Festival?
This year, we landed on a theme that, after a very long and lengthy sort of like brainstorming sessions, because the theme is what drives everything that happens, at the festival. And this year's theme is Fill the Frame. And with this particular theme, it's an active invitation for audiences to move beyond just watching the films, but to actually feeling, framing cinema as a sensory and emotional vessel. So we don't want you to just sit there and watch, but we want you to engage with everything that is happening on screen, and I must say that with this theme, we're going to challenge, our audiences a little bit, in that we curated films that are emotionally textured and geographically sort of like intimate stories. And when we talk about textured films, we're talking about films that will, there's a beautiful film set in the Kalahari, completely filmed in the Karoo. As you watch this film, you almost feel, the anguish that the crew and the cast and everybody who was involved in this film went through. You feel the scorching heat of the sun, as it hits your back. You can really kind of feel that heaviness. You can feel that, everything that's in those particular scenes, and that's what we want our audiences to come and do. So we want you to be emotionally invested in the films that we've curated.
Oh, Adelaide, something that I find really interesting, and I love to hear, it really excited me when I heard Nhlanhla speak about, wanting to become the premier, film festival. It's amazing. It's a great mark to be working towards. But speak to me about what are some of the films that we're expecting to see being showcased? Because I know that at this time, whenever the Joburg Film Festival comes on, we know that we'll get an indication of the talent that we should be on the lookout for and themes, movie themes that are, should be highlighted.
Yes, there are a lot of films that are going to be highlighted, but like I said, mainly local films. And some of the films as well are like already getting a lot of buzz in terms of film festival community and doing well in terms of also winning in certain categories and selections of films. There's a couple of documentaries as well that are like critically acclaimed already. There's one documentary in particular that's called Six Kings and Six Queens, and it's the battle for the sixth. Essentially, it's about obviously there's a succession when it comes to certain villages and how they do things, and so they're basically fighting to see who would be the one that would be the next king or queen of this particular village. There's also the critically acclaimed Kabelo film that stars Warren Masamula as well. That's gotten amazing reviews. It might even be sold out, so you should make sure that all of the films that you want to also watch, that you go to the Joburg Film Festival website to go and see which films will be screened and which ones you can actually buy tickets for. There's also Laundry, which is sold out already. There's also a documentary called She Didn't Die. There's even an Idris Alba film as well that actually stars Seal in it as well. There's so many films. I don't know, the list is so long. Between Worlds, even Dr. Bongani Ngema's documentary as well will also be screened at the festival. There's so many. And also, I must also preface, this is a family-safe festival, okay? So when you go onto the website, you can look at what genres you're interested in to see whether it is going to be okay for family viewing. There are also children's films that you could also see, animations that are safe for children to also, you just make sure you check through what film it is and the synopsis and the genre that you prefer. There's the Santon Cinema, there is the Hyde Park Cinema, as well as the Zone as well. So there's a lot of different locations where you can go to your nearest and watch with whichever film that you would like to actually see for yourself. Again, we are all supporting local filmmakers. The more we go and support the festival, the more they'll be able to give us more content from local filmmakers and documentary makers as well.
Yeah, that sounds premium to me already. All right,
let's quickly,
let's quickly move on to some of your recommendations for the week. I'm seeing that we're expecting, is it a thriller? How to Make a Killing. It's a thriller.
Oh my goodness. It is. It's a dark comedy / thriller, and it actually came out last week already. It's starring Glenn Powell, who we know from Chad Power's Running Man. It's actually based on a remake from the 1949 actually, and it's called Kind Hearts and Coronet. So that's the original, and so How to Make a Killing is a remake of the very same film. Essentially, we follow Glenn Powell, and his mother, unfortunately, is actually born from a very wealthy family, which is actually being nice. She comes from a wealthy family, and unfortunately, she ends up meeting a normal guy, and she has a baby with him, but the family disowns her, and so she's completely removed from the bloodline and the inheritance of the family. But he gets an idea that what would happen if he maybe got rid of everybody in the lineage to get closer to his inheritance. So you follow him in the film trying to figure out how he can get to his inheritance without anybody figuring it out. It poses the question of how far would you go to actually make sure that you get your family inheritance? Would you get rid of a cousin, a sibling, you know, your mother? Who knows? But it's very funny, and it's got a really great cast as well. It's got Marguerite Qualley from Maid, The Substance, Happy Gilmore, as well as Jessica Henwick from the Iron Fist series and Love and Monsters, as well as Ed Harris from The Truman Show, if those know him. He's a legendary actor, has been in the game for a very long time. He's also from the Westworld series as well. It's just a really, really great film. Like I said, they disowned him at birth, but he needs to try and find a way to claim his inheritance.
Yep. How far are you willing to go to get what's rightfully yours? I'll definitely be checking that out. I always have some appetite for some dark humor, so I'll be there.
Same.
And then in South Africa, I'm really excited by this locally produced series, Is it Law, Love and Betrayal? And I was thinking that I don't remember a law-based series.
Drama.
Yeah, since, was it Sokuli and Partners? I think that's the last one that I actually remember.
Sokuli and Partners.
Yeah, so this is exciting.
Yeah, it's called Law, Love and Betrayal, and it's actually season 2 that's coming out on Mzansi Magic on channel 161 on Sundays at 8 p.m. And it's starting from this Sunday, the 6th of March, and it will also be showcased on Showmax on the Monday. So if you miss it on DSTV, you can just catch it on Showmax. And essentially, it's moving on from the first season, and it actually stars Pearl Mudiadia, who was also on 702 just the other day. So I thought that was also just a cool way to segue it. But she actually becomes the new boss of Gumete and Associates, and everybody's basically gunning for her. Her former mentor also comes back as a new advocate in the show. It's got lots of SAFTA winners as well. Shannon Ersa also joins the cast, and also some of the recurring cast members are also coming back. But a lot of SAFTA nominees as well. And Kantakunene from Adulting, those who know him as Seki Seki, and I love his performances. I think he's just such a great actor, really good range. That guy has a very, very bright future in this industry. And also Relebogile as well from Spinners and Soft Life, who actually won the National Film and TV Awards for Best Newcomer prize in 2024. So yeah, it's actually a legal drama, as I said, with new plots, twists, and also a gripping courtroom chaos, essentially. So definitely a show that people can look out for. Like I said, we always support local before international. That's just what we have to do. But it's just something that you can get into if you're looking for a different type of local show that still has those elements of international drama, law, and just drama, really.
Drama. Adelaide Moeng, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, then. Have a fantastic afternoon. She's right there at the Joburg Film Festival, and it sounds amazing. I hope that you'll be checking it out. I'm going to go to one or two of the cinemas. I'm looking forward to that Mbongeni Ngema documentary. That's a highlight for me, and I hope you've identified yours as well.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
Big news out of Iran. The supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, 86 years old, confirmed dead on Saturday following joint US and Israeli strikes. Iran, of course, has retaliated, attacking many Gulf nations, including Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE.
We are actually right at the beginning of the conflict now. The closing down of the Strait of Hormuz really result in serious consequences. It's projected that 18 billion barrels of oil could be affected if the Strait of Hormuz is shut down. We're not even talking about the Bab al-Mandab Strait. So we are in serious trouble.
Dr. Kingsley Makubela.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Different sounds, different worlds.
Different artistic expressions, music, art, and fashion collide. Are you coming? Let's go to the place where the beat drops, the fashion pops, and the art rocks.
We're talking Focalistic, Daliwonga, Mafigi Zolo, Kurt Darren, Makara Doughboy, Zoe Mudija, Claire Johnston from Mango Groove, the Tswani Gospel Choir, and more. Mahindra Fusion Fest, Saturday 7th March, Sunbet Arena. Tickets on Ticketmaster now. See you there.
Gear up for glorious Grand Slam success with Hollywood Bets. Take your tennis passion to new heights and feel every stroke, rally, and match point as the drama unfolds at the Australian Open, Roland Garros, Wimbledon, and US Open. The biggest stages in tennis have been set as the world's best go head-to-head for ultimate bragging rights. Bet now and make every moment count.
T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
Whether you're a business owner in dentistry or in hospitality, switch to Outsurance Business Insurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium.
It was a quick process. I saved a lot of money.
Get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. SMS business to 47543. That's business to 47543. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Business and government are working together to tackle youth unemployment. Discover how with insights from Shami Suriana Rain.
Some of the barriers that employers face include young people not necessarily being able to advertise the skills that they actually have that are relevant for a job. For example, job postings will ask for things like 5 years of work experience for an entry-level job. We know that actually only 5% of jobs that are online can require less than a matric certificate, where we know from Harambe's own proof points that people with less than a matric or a matric can do many entry-level jobs. So there's a question of demand and supply mismatch. SA Youth simplifies this with a number of inclusive assessments like our behavioral screener and other tools like the inclusive CV. And this, we've actually conducted tests to show that this puts more young people that are ready and fit for purpose in front of employers.
These insights on building South Africa's workforce are brought to you by SA Youth on 702.
702.
Travel.
It's time for the travel feature, and today we're having a conversation around uncharted waters. You know, we're talking about new cruise destinations that you've probably never considered. When we speak about cruises here in South Africa, you'll often think Mozambique. I know a number of people get on cruises to Mozambique, and I suppose there's more out there that we aren't considering. However, the data that we've received is that more and more people in 2025 have been considering cruises, and they are inquiring about cruises as well, and there are more options than those that we are used to or have been accustomed to. For that conversation, I've got Nirosha Sidat, who is with the Norwegian Cruise Line. She's the country manager for Africa. Nirosha, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Khomotso. Thank you for having me, and of course for giving me the opportunity to talk about modern day cruising.
Yeah, it's interesting how more and more people are considering cruising, you know, and the fact that the destinations, you know, oftentimes I was thinking Mozambique was a popular one from South Africa. What else? Mauritius is also a popular one, but there's more that people are considering now.
100%. I mean, we have guests that, you know, have always wanted to travel the world. And, you know, there's always been these myths around cruising that it's too expensive, it's too formal, it's too rigid, it's for, you know, the slightly older market, or you'll get bored on a ship. And now that they've seen, we've done so much really good marketing around cruising. Now that they've seen what cruising has to offer, more and more people are wanting to cruise, and there's no better way to see the world. I mean, imagine you go on a cruise holiday and you get to visit 3 to 4 countries in one holiday. No one really gets to do that nowadays. You know, if you're booking a land-based holiday, you're either going to a hotel and you're staying in that destination for the full duration of your holiday.
Yeah.
Whereas with the cruise, you have so many options.
And I mean, you speak about cruising, generally being considered more formal. I think as a result, it's always been associated with, an older market. Those are the people that would generally be seen on cruises. How is it now being changed or developed to attract a younger market?
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, with NCL, we've actually, our brand specializes in what we call freestyle cruising, and we've changed that way and narrative of actually cruising. So we've given our guests more freedom, more choice, more flexibility. And what that actually means is that there's no fixed dining times. There's no formal dress code. It's for everyone. In fact, we've actually seen a much younger market now considering a cruise. In the past, it was 50 plus, and now we're seeing 35 plus. It's definitely multi-generational, And for that exact reason is it's giving guests more time to choose, to make choices. It's fresh, it's social, it's adventurous. Our ships have high energy entertainment, go at your own pace dining, modern technology. So it's definitely catering for all, different multi-generational guests.
Yeah, but with that, you automatically assume, this must cost an arm and a leg. I mean, I've been hearing $6,000 for a balcony cruise, and I think it's no secret that the ordinary South African just cannot afford that.
You know what? There's so many options when it comes to a cruise holiday, and we need to actually get that message across much better. I mean, yes, it could possibly be $6,000, but that's for a balcony cabin, right? But then even in that, if you break it down, it includes premium accommodation, world-class dining, award-winning entertainment. You don't get that in a land-based resort, We've got theater shows, adrenaline types of activities like 3-story go-kart racetracks, water parks, VR gaming, stylish staterooms, you name it. We've got it all on a cruise holiday. So it does make a big difference when you break it down to like the final cost. When you break every single thing down separately, you'll actually notice that it's so much more valuable to do a cruise holiday. We've actually done a couple of comparisons, just choosing a land-based resort and breaking down what's included versus a cruise holiday. And then you actually realize that it's actually cheaper to go on a cruise holiday than to do a Cape Town holiday, So it does make a big difference.
Yeah.
And yes, $6,000 might seem high, but then there's more affordable options as well. We also have inside staterooms that's slightly more affordable. We have ocean view, which is exactly the same. Only thing is instead of having a veranda on a patio, it's got a window view. And then we also have payment options. On a cruise holiday, especially with NCL, a lot of our guests don't realize that they can actually book, secure it with a deposit, and then have the option to pay it off over a couple of months before the final payment is due, as long as the cruise is paid off 90 days prior to the cruise departure. So there's ways to book a cruise, and that's my job in the market right now, is to explain to our guests out there that you can actually afford a cruise holiday. It's definitely good value for money, and it is affordable.
Yeah. And what are some of those destinations then that are less popular that you believe are now on the market?
So Japan is trending. It's the new bucket list destination for the South African market. I think it's a global thing, actually. I think everyone is wanting to go through to the Southeast Asia destination. So Japan's really popular. But besides like Asia being really popular, Alaska used to always be really popular. It's one of those destinations that's every alternative year. It's coming back slowly but surely. We do have a slight visa issue in South Africa with the Canadian visa, but I've heard from many of our guests that they're actually managing to get the Canadian visa much quicker. So that's also really popular. Northern Europe, extremely popular for our guests. They love going to as far up as Norway.
Yeah.
And the advantage of going to Europe, for example, if we take out the other destinations, is it's one Schengen visa. So it's easily obtainable from our market. So, for example, if you're doing Northern Europe, you're not only getting to do one country, you're doing, for example, Sweden, Copenhagen. I'm thinking of all the names, all the destinations, Copenhagen, Sweden, Norway. Iceland is also trending now as well. And we've actually had guests, even though our cruises only sail in the summer months, we've actually had guests that were lucky enough to actually get to see the Northern Lights, believe it or not, in summer. So these are all the top popular destinations. But for our market mainly, most of our guests love the popular European destinations, your Barcelonas, your Romes, your Florence, your Pisa. Those are also really popular.
All right. Nerosha Sidat, thank you so much for your time and thank you for breaking that down for us. She's from the Norwegian Cruise Line. She's the country manager for Africa. All right, it's 2:00. It's time now for Eyewitness News.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Maki Malapo. Former National Director of Public Prosecutions, Bulelani Ngcuka, has detailed how the lack of resources at the establishment of the National Prosecutions Authority in 1998 hampered its ability to focus on cases arising from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission process. Ngcuka is giving evidence regarding delays in the prosecution of apartheid-era cases emanating from the TRC process during his tenure. He explained that resource constraints limited the NPA's capacity and forced difficult choices about which matters to prioritize. As the country's first head of the NPA, he says his focus had to shift to urgent criminal cases in the Western Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. He adds that in certain instances, the evidence was just insufficient to secure a successful prosecution.
You take, for example, the Biko case. In that case, we all knew that the police had killed Steve. We knew that. And so to go and take those police to court when we didn't have sufficient evidence, they would have been acquitted.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says as much as his government encourages private investments, the country will maintain state-owned ownership in strategic infrastructure like rail and energy. Ramaphosa says government alone cannot finance the scale of infrastructure South Africa needs and must rope in private partners to meet the demands. Writing in his latest newsletter, Ramaphosa says the 2026 budget tabled last week supports inclusive growth by accelerating public investment, particularly on infrastructure. Babala Ndenze has more.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says over the next 3 years, public spending on infrastructure will exceed 1 trillion rand. He says this will go mainly to build and maintain roads and rail lines, expand energy infrastructure, and build and maintain water and sanitation infrastructure. But Ramaphosa says government alone cannot finance the scale of infrastructure the country needs. He says while they encourage private investment in electricity, rail and port operations, government is maintaining state ownership of strategic national infrastructure. He says his administration is mobilizing investment from private and other sources and opening the space for public-private partnerships. Ramaphosa says improved infrastructure will also lower the cost of doing business and will raise the country's productivity while supporting exports. Babalo Ndenze, Eyewitness News.
In the courts, a Bulgarian national convicted of drug trafficking in Romania has appeared in the Weinberg Magistrates Court for an extradition hearing. Stanislav Stamenov was arrested on Friday following an Interpol red notice. He was sentenced in Romania to 16 years behind bars for his role in a drug syndicate. However, he has not served any of that sentence and has reportedly been living in South Africa for the past 16 years. Ntutuzelanene has more.
In court today, Stamenov's lawyer Matthew Booth argued that his client's arrest and court appearance were unlawful. Booth told the court that if Stamenov had fled Romania, authorities there should have followed proper diplomatic channels. He argued that an extradition request should have been submitted through South Africa's Justice Minister, who would then apply for an arrest warrant after considering the merits of the case. Booth further argued that an Interpol red notice does not constitute a valid arrest warrant. The matter has been postponed until Wednesday, when the magistrate is expected to rule on the legal submissions. Ndutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News in Cape Town.
South African motorists are set to pay more at the pumps from Wednesday as fuel prices increase. The Mineral and Petroleum Resources Department has announced today that both grades of petrol will go up by 20 cents a litre, while diesel sees a steeper hike of 62 cents a litre, with illuminating paraffin set to increase by 58 cents per litre. LP gas will also go up by 23 cents a kilogram. The department says the increases are largely the result of higher international product prices, partially offset by a stronger rand against the dollar. The Iranian Embassy in South Africa is in mourning following the assassination of the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Khamenei was killed in Israeli and American airstrikes over the weekend, sparking retaliatory attacks from Tehran. In response, the Iranian military has launched strikes on Gulf countries in the Middle East that are believed to be hosting U.S. military bases. Spokesperson for the Iranian Embassy in South Africa, Hamid Reza Orey, says the United States is in violation of multiple international laws.
The cowardly terrorist act carried out by the United States of America regime and the Zionist regime targeting the prominent leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran constitutes an unprecedented assault on all normative and ethical principles recognized by humanity.
Meanwhile, in a video posted on social media app Truth Social, American President Donald Trump has urged authorities in Iran to surrender.
I once again urge the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian military, police, to lay down your arms and receive full immunity or face certain death. It will be certain death. Won't be pretty.
Meanwhile, in the Middle East, the Cyprus government says the 2 drones heading to the UK military base in the country were dealt with in a timely manner. This after an Iranian drone reportedly hit the runway of the base, prompting the European Union to vow solid backing for member states as the US-Israeli conflict with Iran spread. Yesterday, Britain agreed to allow the United States to use British military bases to fire defensive strikes aimed at destroying Iranian missiles and their launchers. EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen says they stand collectively, firmly and unequivocally with their member states in the face of any threat. Britain's Foreign Minister Yvette Cooper told Sky News that the airport runway was affected.
This is an unmanned drone strike, specifically on the airport runway, and we're not able to provide further information and detail at this point. But obviously all of the precautionary measures are being taken around the base.
At the same time, the AFP reports that a British sovereign base in Cyprus is being evacuated today after sirens sounded. In addition to British and other military personnel, the base also houses civilians working there. Gold's trading at $5,391.11 an ounce. The rand's at 16.06 to the dollar, at 21.55 to the pound, at 18.84 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $78.62 a barrel.
And in your traffic heading towards Benoni, there's been an accident on the N12 East before Atlas Road causing delays. While in Amalgam, there's slow-moving traffic on the M2 West between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road.
A look at your weather. It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng with isolated showers and thunder showers expected today. Temperatures are peaking at highs between 24 and 27 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. Former National Director of Public Prosecutions, Bulelani Ngcuka, has detailed how the lack of resources at the establishment of the National Prosecutions Authority in 1998 hampered his ability to focus on cases arising from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission process.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Welcome back to 702 Afternoons. I'm Khomotsa Modise in for Relebogile this afternoon with you until 3 p.m. It is 9 minutes past 2. And we're with you for the next hour. I'm looking forward to the conversations that we're going to be having. But from the conversations that we had in the first hour, if you missed those, where have you been? You can visit the Prime Media Plus app or 702's YouTube channel, and you should be able to find those conversations and the recordings uploaded on there. Over the next hour, we're going to be having a conversation around parenting, and it's around raising children as a parent with cognitive or developmental disabilities. We often don't think of parents that suffer or live, I should say, with cognitive or developmental disabilities. It's a conversation that we, usually have in the inverse, where we speak about parenting children with these challenges, parenting children who live with disabilities, parenting children who have cognitive challenges. But what about being parented by a parent who is living with cognitive disabilities? It's a conversation I'm really looking forward to. If you were raised by a mother, a father who had developmental challenges, please weigh in. The number to dial is 011-883-0702 or 072-702-1702. And then in the final half hour of the show, we have the Naked Scientist, that is Dr. Charles Smith, who will be answering any of your science questions. And the same numbers apply, 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702. Alternatively, if you want to get in touch with me on X, my handle is at @Motso_Modise. That's at @Motso_Modise.
Parenting and Parents
on 702.
So it's a conversation that we seldom have, and I've been wondering why we never really think about parents who have cognitive challenges. And I came across a video on social media where someone was, opening up and sharing about her challenges in being raised by a mother who's got developmental challenges. Let's take a listen.
My name is Linda, and I am the daughter of a mother who is developmentally delayed. My mother has the appearance of an adult woman, and sometimes if you get around her, you think she has some of the mannerisms of an adult woman. But it doesn't take too long when you talk to her that you figure out that something isn't right. My mother's got the equivalent in some areas of her life of a 12-year-old, and in other areas of her life, she's much younger. She doesn't process things like most people do, and she doesn't comprehend things like most people do. You can give her information, but she just can't seem to put the pieces together of life. So my mom has never been able to do things like hold down a job, maintain a schedule, maintain a household, do anything that has any kind of repetitive pattern to it. My mom is impulsive. She runs a lot on her emotions, and she does things from an emotional standpoint, like a survival standpoint. My mother had 5 children, and I was the oldest of 5 children.
I mean, having listened to that, she goes on, and there's more on her social media platforms. But having listened to her go into that experience, there's so much that speaks to how this affected her childhood and how she was parented. And, eventually it also affected how she would later parent her children, even though she doesn't have those cognitive challenges. And I do think that it's a conversation that's worth having, especially as many people live in their homes with parents who are experiencing cognitive challenges, cognitive, disabilities. My guest for this is Dr. Ken Resnick, and he's an educational psychologist. He joins me now on the line. Dr. Ken, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
So I've been thinking about why we seldom speak about people who suffer from or who live with cognitive disabilities, whether it's Down syndrome, cerebral palsy. Why do we, seldom speak about them as parents? And I've been thinking maybe it's because we subconsciously think of them as perpetual children.
Right. So you want me to respond?
Yes.
Okay. So I think we've got to look at in terms of what parenting is about.
Yeah.
So parenting, children can't bring themselves up. So that means they're totally dependent on an adult. Now, it doesn't have to be a biological parent. As long as it's an adult, parenting is a job that is able to take them into life and guide them into adulthood.
Yeah.
So a parent should be a guide. Remember, a child is born just with a brain. So all its characteristics, its morals, its values, its self-esteem, its social skills, etc., are very dependent on an adult instilling those characteristics into a child.
Yeah.
So like any job, because there's no clear definition of what we need to do, we impact on our children. So if you are developmentally challenged or intellectually challenged, the main thing is, are you aware, can you understand what your job is? And I think when you look a bit at when I had to Google, they need support. Because remember, it's the needs of the child. And the needs of the child is to have a parent that they can trust, that they can believe, that can instill in them, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
No impulsivity, social skills, etc. So if just reading, I think a lot of these, certainly the socioeconomic situation is not great. A lot of kids are removed if they feel the parent is not doing the job.
Yeah.
So that parent that is developmentally challenged or intellectually challenged, as long as they can understand, in other words, what they need to do, with the support, with people, there are support groups, I don't think there are that many, that can help them or understand what their job is about. They can bring them up, but it's not going to be easy because they will have to have a lot of insight into how do you, what do you have to do for a child? You've got to instill in them manners. You've got to instill in them responsibility, help them to become independent, enjoy school, not miss school. So the job itself is not easy because there's not a very clear job description on parenting. So every case is going to be different. And very often, there's a court challenge because they're looking at the best interests of the child. So if the parent cannot do the job, in other words, if there's no structure at home, kids are running wild, maybe doing a lot of things they shouldn't be doing, creating havoc at school, etc., then, of course, they're going to have a look at the whole situation and see if that parent is able to actually do the job and how confident are they? How do they feel about themselves? Listening to the interview of that woman, she was the eldest child. There's a great chance she ended up parenting the rest of the kids. We don't know their full history. So it's very difficult. Each case would be different, but are they fully equipped to parent the child? Maybe 70%, maybe 80% it might be good enough because nobody is a 100% perfect parent.
Yeah.
So it's a very sensitive topic because we're not trying to discriminate, but it is a job and it will impact on a child. There's no question about if their needs are not met. For instance, they're just allowed to run wild. They're just allowed to sit on their cell phone all day, or where there's no structure for them, or there's no sort of social skill because they never allowed out. There's just so many things that impact on the child's development. And that's why, like with any job, if the parent is able to meet certain requirements, they should be able to parent. But once again, support, because I'm sure their self-esteem might not be as good as it should be, their confidence in themselves, etc. And it is not an easy job if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. What makes it so difficult, for parents with developmental challenges, to step up to the occasion and parent the children? Is it the emotional immaturity, so to speak? And I want to be very, very sensitive around this. But we heard Linda speaking about how her mother was just emotionally unstable. And as a result, even though at face value she may have come across as a sound woman who was quote unquote, and I don't want to say normal, but could parent like every other parent, it was her emotional challenges more than anything that was a difficulty. So what are some of those challenges that parents who are developmentally underdeveloped, so to speak, would face?
Well, we've got to look at their childhood. I guarantee there was something wrong there. Because remember, we're not born with low self-esteem. We're not born lacking, having grit. We're not born having those things just because we've got a certain name. So you'll find the mother of that particular woman more than likely would have had a heavy time. She mentioned her mother being impulsive. Now, all kids are born impulsive. We're born impulsive, and it's a parent's job to try and help them become less impulsive. We don't have time to discuss how that should be done. But one needed to look at that mother's history to understand what created a problem. She could have had a lot of abuse, a lot of neglect, at home and maybe left school when she was 15 or 16 because of other reasons. So her ability to focus and understand what she had to do as a parent might have been overwhelming. We don't know. We need more history with that because everybody is different. But we don't know that the mother was born with any particular problem. You know, she wasn't saying she was brain damaged or had anything specific like Down syndrome, etc. She just had a developmental problem. And one interesting thing from my point of view is that today there are so many kids being assessed and they're labeled with mental health problems and they're actually developmental problems because no personality characteristic is genetic. All our personality characteristics come from the way we are parented, and we're not focusing on that. That's what research has shown. So there would have been a lot of issues with that particular person's mother, and she nogal had 5 children, which I'm sure how she would have managed them, I don't know, but I would imagine that eldest one would have taken some responsibility. So we've got to look at each case. But developmental, I like that word because it meant something in their upbringing. Something went wrong. You know, where she had no self-esteem. Maybe nobody took an interest in her, failed at school. There could have been a lot of issues. Maybe had to get married. So all of those impact on our development.
I want to open our lines and hear from our listeners who may have been raised by a developmentally challenged parent, a parent maybe who, you know, was diagnosed maybe with cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, autism. How did that affect your childhood? And how does it affect how you parent now if you are a parent? You know, you raised something really important, Dr. Ken, which is something that the woman in the recording had highlighted, the fact that she was then pushed to become the parent and to parent her siblings. But more than that, she says that she was also pushed and found herself parenting her mother because her mother then had become like a child. And she says her mother reasons like a child, so she had to step up and become the parent.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Her mother was obviously very low self-esteem, maybe a learned helpless type of person. But it's interesting. The eldest one must have had some sort of care that actually helped her achieve what she did at school or whatever. We needed more history there. But often it happens when you've got the eldest child, there's so many kids that do become the parent. The fact that she had to parent her parent, where was the father? How come she had kids? You know, there are just a whole lot of factors we have to look at in every particular case. But that mother was obviously very inadequate, and this person maybe being a little bit more independent, having to cope on her own, learned to the quality she might have needed to persevere, to not give up and that sort of thing, and take over the role of protecting her siblings and parenting them. But at the same time observing how inadequate the mom was. And once again, it could have just been a regular developmental problem. That's what it sounded like. That mother was very inadequate, just didn't have the skills or the know-how, and was very impulsive. Yeah. So that would have been a bit of a nightmare. But it's interesting. It's an interesting case. We need more facts there. That's all, just to understand it more fully.
Yeah, I think there's also, you know, the element of stigma because from my understanding from the lady's recording, it seems that her mother, you know, had challenges in that she reasoned like a child. So her cognitive abilities hadn't developed to those of an adult. And as a result, that's why she speaks about the mother being, you know, developmentally disabled. And I can only imagine, you know, the stigma that comes with that, you know, society and unkind societies that we live in, where you can see that this, you know, the person who's parenting these children is truly struggling. And that really can affect the children, right? In how they are socialized and in how they, you know, they relate to their parent, whether they are embarrassed and they find themselves in situations where they too struggle to socialize.
No question. There's no question. We don't understand the impact parents have on it. But that mother sound, you know, we need really a lot more info. In other words, if she was neglected as a child, we don't know her background. And at the end of the day, she would have done badly at school. She would have felt she couldn't and obviously gave up or didn't even try or saw herself as stupid. Socially, she might have had huge problems. in terms of bullying, in terms of maybe being rejected by the class, whoever it was, which would have impacted on her whole feeling of self-esteem and self-worth. And then the fact she had 5 kids. Why? Was that she was just vulnerable to not saying no and just not understanding or the consequences of her actions. So we needed a lot more info, so just a pity we don't have on the mother, because there's so many variables and factors that would have influenced her whole development as a human being. Because she didn't say her child was her mother was Down syndrome or autistic. She just said she was very impulsive and very inadequate, which meant there was low self-esteem, no confidence, and no belief that she even could do the job, but just had these kids. So it's a very interesting case, but there would have been a lot of factors you'd have to consider. And obviously, each case would be different, whether the person that developmentally challenged or intellectually challenged.
How would the parenting dynamics change in instances where the parent has been diagnosed with a Down syndrome or a cerebral palsy or autism, on the spectrum for autism? What would the parenting dynamics look like then? Because, there's no doubt that in many instances, those diagnoses can have a challenge or cause challenges for parenting for the people that have been diagnosed.
Yeah, look, I think something as serious as a Down syndrome person, I think they're going to be very aware there's something genetic in that. And the dangers of the chance of having another Down syndrome child is very high. I think today they can sort of foretell if there's a high chance of having a Down syndrome kid, because it's very difficult to manage and parent a Down syndrome child. So that child will be more than likely not fully equipped to actually do the job of parenting, plus the fact that there was a genetic chance of her maybe having a Down syndrome kid. So one would have to look at a Down syndrome. Autistic, we'd have to look at an extreme case of autism. So then there's the normal handicap of hard of hearing, not being able to see, maybe some physical disability. There are all those sort of factors we've got to look at as well. But in the case of a person that is totally okay, they function okay in their mind, there should be no reason why they couldn't parent.
Yeah.
If it's affected their whole being as a human, where they just don't feel adequate, they can't take responsibility, they've always got to be helped, well, they'll battle to do parenting, because they will definitely need support and the help to raise those children.
And is there support for people who, have been diagnosed, maybe are experiencing severe autism or Down syndrome, and they happen to be parents? Is there support out there?
You know what? When I was reading, evidently there are not many support groups. And the problems is that we don't really know how to parent. Often what we're doing, what I've found from my experience, there's a lot of cognitive developmental type of parenting where the parents help to know how to deal with the child's behavior, then understand what their job is. So there are not many people that are that equipped to know how to deal with a person with whether it's autism or any of those disorders. So I would imagine that from what I just read in America, there are not many support groups, but there must be some around, where people can come in and just help that parent build up their confidence, help them to put in structures for their kids, know how to talk to their child, know how to discipline their child. I think they could be taught, but I don't think there are that many support groups specifically for parenting.
Yeah.
Because parenting just generally is difficult. And the parents of today are really battling, and there's a good reason for that. So now you've got to have a support group that really understands what parents have to do. And often we don't. We don't understand what they've got to do, but we still can give them certain skills in order to relate to that child. Because that child is going to develop as a human being, a person we want to be confident, self-motivated and so on. And it's just so dependent on how we brought up.
Someone here on the WhatsApp line saying both my parents should not have had kids. They came from such sad and terrible backgrounds and had no idea how to be loving, supportive parents. It was hard for me with multiple step-parents and drama. It made me decide to never have children. I don't blame them. They didn't know any better. I do. And I suppose that's what it is sometimes when you have parents who are developmentally challenged. They just don't know any better. And when you're raised by a parent who is, struggling developmentally, you might have to just, at some point realize that they too are operating from a place of not knowing.
Definitely. But it's interesting that you say that, because then normally a child with parents like that is actually free to not feel guilty about their parents. In other words, their parents have got that disability, they're not really doing their job, which then allows them to be free and not feel guilt-ridden, compared to a parent that is, their whole life is their child, where they actually have a dependency on their kid. The kid grows up full of guilt, feeling totally responsible for a parent, which affects their whole way of having relationships.
Yeah.
So there's that. That would have, I would imagine, have come into the picture that these parents were so obviously not okay, that kid had the freedom to maybe be impacted by maybe a friend or cousin or another adult, whoever they related to, rather than being made to feel guilty by their parents because their parents were just not there. So that's what I'm saying. It's interesting because all cases are different, but in many ways you can hear by the way she's speaking. She managed to be free enough to carry on with her life and not feel very responsible and understand that the parents were absent, but she had the presence of mind to realize she didn't want to have a parent like that. That is why she's not choosing not to have kids, because she was a victim of what can happen when there's no effective parent.
All right, Dr. Ken Resnick, we are going to have to leave it there. He's an educational psychologist. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure, and thanks for inviting me.
All right, it is just after 2:30 and it's time for the Eyewitness News headlines with Mikey Malapo. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Khomotso. Good afternoon. The first few days of the DA's leadership nomination window have already drawn strong interest from the party's younger cohort, with several young members putting themselves forward for senior national positions. With the DA set to hold its federal congress in April, the party opened its nomination process on Friday for candidates seeking to serve in its leadership structures. Beyond Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis, who's contesting for federal leader, and Gauteng DA leader Salim Simanga, who's running for deputy federal chairperson, a number of younger leaders are now stepping forward to declare their ambitions. The Justice Ministry says government has fallen short on implementing the aspirations of the Constitution over the past 30 years. Today, the Ministry is holding an event at the Apartheid Museum in Johannesburg to commemorate 3 decades since the Constitution was signed into law. The program also acts as an official launch of Human Rights Month under the theme The Bill of Rights at 30, Making Human Dignity Real. And South African motorists are set to pay more at the pumps from Wednesday as fuel prices increase. The Mineral and Petroleum Resources Department has announced today that both grades of petrol will go up by 20 cents a litre, while diesel sees a steeper hike of 62 cents a litre. Illuminating paraffin is set to increase by 58 cents per litre. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at 3 o'clock or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
And in your traffic heading towards Benoni, there's been an accident on the N12 East before Atlas Road, causing some delays. Traffic is also backed up on the N3 North between Van Buren Road and the Galulis interchange. And if you see anything else, do let us know, please, on the 702 WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
The United States, Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates issuing a joint statement saying that Islamic Republic's actions represent a dangerous escalation that violates the sovereignty of multiple states and threatens regional stability, saying that the targeting of civilians and of countries not engaged in hostilities is reckless and destabilizing behavior. Why are the other countries in the region seemingly the target of Iran?
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Some ingredients are simple until they're not. This week, the humble onion becomes the hero in the pressure cooker kitchen of Master Chef South Africa. The onion family is bold, sharp, and sweet, but also unforgiving, and it can make you cry. Expect a challenge that separates the good cooks from the great ones, because when you strip everything back, flavor has to stand on its own. MasterChef South Africa Season 6 continues this Sunday at 6 p.m. only on ETV.
The Vodacom United Rugby Championship is one of the hottest tournaments on the planet. Hollywood Bets adds spice with an epic competition in which 400,000 rand in cash, prizes and betting vouchers must be won. Prizes include a Vodacom URC VIP experience and a glamorous Table Mountain adventure. To enter, simply bet 30 rand or more on any Vodacom URC fixture between 23 January and 16 May. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
The number of used cars being sold is also up dramatically. Actually, used car sales are up 11% in January, year on year. George Meany is the CEO at Auto Trader SA.
Approximately 1.5 to 2 times the number of used cars are traded versus new. And that fluctuates anywhere between 1.5 and 2.5, depending on where the economy is. But the used car market is a lot more buoyant, and there's a lot more vehicles traded in the used car market than there are in the new car market.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA Corporate and Investment Banking. Refined performance is a measure of discipline. That's how we are invested in your story, and why ABSA returned as a proud diamond sponsor for this year's Hedge News Africa Symposium and Awards Ceremony. ABSA is a registered FSP. T's and C's apply.
Coming up
on 702 Drive with John Perlman.
It's going to be 702 Drive in the next, 24 minutes. And Dr. John is in studio. And good afternoon, Dr. John.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all our listeners.
Yeah, what can we expect on the show?
So there's a lot going on. Obviously, we're looking at all the implications of the attacks on Iran by Israel and the United States, the attacks by Iran on other countries, including the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait has got drawn into the conflict as well. It's a massive regional conflict unfolding there with huge implications for many countries, including our own. The oil price spiking and many other issues as well. Travel massively disrupted, and of course there are South Africans in the conflict zone who are appealing for some help in getting out. We'll look at all of those issues after 5 o'clock. I was surprised to hear, Khumotso, that you can actually legally ask your siblings for maintenance.
I actually saw something about that over the weekend. How's that going to work?
I have absolutely no idea, but I hope we can find someone. We are going to find someone who can tell us about it. And we're going to ask listeners what they think about that, you know, under what circumstances. I mean, not everybody gets on with their siblings. And even when they do, they don't necessarily want to be the person who's depending on them for money, particularly when they probably have some of their own financial needs as well. Road Traffic Management Corporation critical of Scholar transport operators, saying that they're going back to old bad habits that were supposed to have been rooted out with a crackdown. I don't think anyone really thought a series of roadblocks was going to change a structural problem. But we'll look into that and try and get some answers as to what they think they might be able to do next.
All right, Dr. John, thank you so much. That's Afternoon Drive from 3 o'clock right here on 702 with John Perlman.
702.
The Naked Scientist.
It's time for The Naked Scientist, and we've got Dr. Chris Smith on the line who's joining us this afternoon. Dr. Smith, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for your time. There's quite a few questions actually that we have this afternoon that have already been sent through. People very eager to find out some facts around science. So let's get right into it. And I want to invite our listeners also, if you have questions around science, you know that The Naked Scientist is here to take those. So get in touch with us. The number to dial is 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. So here's one that I found really interesting because I like and I enjoy, I like to enjoy a can of Coke from time to time. One here is saying, why is it that when I drink Coke in particular, it makes my teeth very weak and I can feel that they've shifted sometimes? People must try it. But I just want to know what causes that and what are the long-term effects, if any?
Well, I think the answer to this is that drinks like Coca-Cola often contain a lot of acid. There's a lot of phosphoric acid in them for various reasons. In fact, you can strip paint off cars quite effectively with bottles of cola because of that acidity. And when you put these drinks in your mouth, as well as the sugar, which also feeds the bacteria in your mouth if it's a sugar-sweetened beverage, and those bacteria turn the sugar into acid as well, the acid in the drink will erode the surfaces of your teeth, and this has the effect of making them feel rough. You'll run your tongue over your teeth after you've had a fizzy drink, and you think, they feel a bit different. And the reason is because the acid has attacked certain parts of the teeth and not others, and it does weaken the enamel, which is the tough outer layer, the fluoroapatite layer on the surface of your tooth. And when it weakens that, it will change the texture, and your tongue is really sensitive to texture. And so you tend to notice that slight erosion of the surface of the teeth. They will remineralize as long as you don't do this too often, and you then have something else to boost the saliva production. Then saliva is alkaline, so it neutralizes the acid, and it's rich in the minerals that the teeth need to rebuild the enamel, and it will put it straight. But that's probably why this person feels their teeth feel strange after drinking a can of something like Coke.
Yeah, and are there long-term effects?
Well, yes. I mean, if you keep doing this, you will slowly shift the balance away from building tooth material and tooth enamel to eroding tooth enamel, and you will end up with weak teeth, porous teeth, and eventually caries, holes in your teeth. So avoid sugary things done regularly. The odd bit of sugar now and then is absolutely fine. But if you keep feeding your mouth bacteria with sugar, you will select for a population of mouth bacteria that are really good at breaking down sugar, and they turn it into acid in your mouth. And so you not only get acid attack from what's in the drink, you then get a secondary acid attack from feeding the bacteria in your mouth.
Okay. Oh, well, that's something to consider, especially if you just like fizzy drinks and you like sugary drinks. You should consider that. Someone else here saying, "Hi, doctor. What generally causes heart arrhythmia?"
Well, arrhythmia means an abnormal rhythm. And the worst kind of abnormal rhythm is no heartbeat at all. Cardiac arrest, that's one form of arrhythmia. A very common form of arrhythmia is called atrial fibrillation, and this is where you have an irregular pulse. People also have arrhythmias where the heart will suddenly go into patterns of very rapid firing, where some people say, well, it feels like my heart's thudding away in my chest, and this can be a tachycardia. You can have a regular tachycardia where the heart is beating regularly, but you can also have an irregular tachycardia. And there's a whole range of different reasons, but the heart has its own pacemaker built into it. And this is called the sinoatrial node. It's in the wall of the atrium, the right atrium. And this clutch of heart cells spontaneously fire off impulses that then travel through an electrical conducting system, rather like the wiring in your house, to the rest of the heart, and they recruit all of the other heart muscles behind it, making them beat at the same time. Effectively, it's like a drummer in a marching band beating out the marching rhythm. And sometimes this part of the heart can go wrong, and it can start to fire off things it shouldn't. Sometimes the conducting system can go wrong, and that can cause the same problem. And sometimes you can end up with an ectopic pacemaker. A group of muscle cells in the heart can be damaged, or they're already abnormal, sometimes for genetic reasons, and they can go a bit too fast or discharge spontaneously, and then they infect the rest of the heart with this abnormal rhythm. So you get these ectopic beats or other abnormal patterns of activity. So there's a whole raft of reasons why you may have an arrhythmia. Sometimes it can be perfectly normal. You can have a tachycardia because you run upstairs, but sometimes it's abnormal and sometimes it needs investigating. And therefore, if this is a new thing that someone's picked up on and also it's bothering them, they're noticing this and it's happening increasingly frequently, or it's there all the time, you must get this investigated, because there could be a range of underlying reasons, including damage to the heart, changes to the conducting pathway, or sometimes infections as well. So it's really important to make sure that this gets investigated and that you can get reassured or the problem fixed.
So what would be best? Monitor it over a short period of time, and if it persists, then go see a doctor, or would you see a doctor immediately?
Well, I mean, if you've got this and you're pretty confident you have an irregular heartbeat, or things are clearly not right, you shouldn't delay where things like this are concerned. You should get this investigated. The first thing a doctor will do is to take a good look at you. And if you look otherwise okay, and this is something that appears to maybe come and go and there's nothing to see there and then, what they often will do is to do what we call a 24-hour tape or Holter monitoring. And people are given a system that records the heartbeat continuously and either triggered by an abnormal rhythm, or when a person presses a button, it will capture the heartbeats that went immediately before, during and after the episode. This can then be kept on the machine, and then when the patient comes back to the hospital, they can, or the doctor, they can offload the data and have a look. And this is effectively an ECG recording, an electrical trace of the heart, which will give us some clues as to where the problem is and the nature of the problem, because you can tell by the pattern of the electrical signals what the likely cause of the problem is, and that will then guide towards further investigation and management.
All right. The next question is actually from someone that I think is a middle-aged man, because the two things that he's asking about, number one, he's asking what causes balding. So, the balding of the head or the hair, rather, receding hairline, and what causes a big belly, and how can one prevent it?
Right. Okay. Well, the balding first. This is very common, and a high fraction of men develop what is called male pattern baldness. It's also called androgeneic alopecia. Alopecia as in hair loss. And this is because the male hormone testosterone, which is present in women, but to a higher level in men, poisons the hair follicles that grow hair in certain parts of the body. Now, we don't know exactly why certain hair follicles are vulnerable and not others, but the vulnerable ones are the ones that go first. If you look at someone who's got classic male baldness, they tend to be the ones on the top of the head and down the sides, which leaves a sort of almost like a half halo of hair, which is healthy and doesn't seem to have a problem. We don't know why testosterone does that, but that's the reason why most men develop a problem with balding. There are other reasons why you can get hair loss, and there's also immune reasons. If you have an autoimmune condition, you can develop alopecia, either areata, one place, if it happens in just one part of your body, or totalis. You can lose all the hair on your body in certain circumstances, again, because the immune system has turned on the hair follicles. But normally, the most common reason people lose hair is because of the poisoning effect of testosterone in the hair follicle itself. And women can develop this, but because women have lower testosterone levels, they're less susceptible to it. It's also X-linked. So if you're, in other words, it's on the X chromosome. So if your mum's dad went bald and you're a boy, there's a higher likelihood you've inherited that particular configuration, because you only get your X chromosomes from your mum, and therefore there's a high likelihood that you may get that same trait. Not 100%, but there's a similar trait, a higher rate. In terms of getting a big tummy, which is the common reasons. There's some rare reasons why a person's tummy may suddenly swell up because of fluid building up inside, but we'll put that to one side. The common reason people get big around the middle, men and women, is just obesity, or it's weight gain, overweight. Now, the distinction is that when we gain calories, when we eat too much, we eat more calories than we consume in a day, the body converts the excess calories into fat, which is the storage molecule in the body. Fat has a huge energy density, but not all fat sites that it can be stored are equal. In men, you tend to preferentially store this extra fat around your middle. In women, it tends to go on your bum, although not exclusively. So some women can develop a bigger belly than others, but often women develop a bigger bum and hips, men bigger tummy. And the problem with the male way of storing fat in that tummy is that the fat gets deposited around your viscera, your internal organs. And for some reason, the fat cells there behave slightly differently. And as you add to the fat load there, it also increases the inflammatory burden in the body. So your inflammatory markers go up, and this is associated with a higher risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, and stroke, and diabetes. So that is a less healthy fat around your middle, high waist to hip ratio. Fat distribution is less healthy, and it is a product of excess calorie intake. It's also the hardest fat to shift. You'll find as you start to lose weight, it'll go from everywhere else before your belly finally gives in and surrenders its fat. So it's best not to put the fat down there in the first place. But anything that is an excess of calories over what you need will be turned into fat in the body, will be stored, and often in us blokes, it's round our waists.
Sure. suppose it all comes down to making healthier choices. All right, I am speaking to the Naked Scientist, and we'll be taking more of your questions after this.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a Clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. It's easy to apply. No medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Make 2026 your year for personal growth. Apply now for the mid-year intake of either the Master of Business Administration or Postgraduate Diploma in Business Administration programs at Wits Business School. Their MBA and PDBA programs will equip you with the critical thinking and leadership skills necessary to face the challenges of the evolving world of work and business. Applications are now open for the July intake and close on the 30th of April. Visit wbs.ac.za for more info. Wits Business School, sculpting global leaders.
Do you believe every child deserves a chance at a brighter future? Gift a Child Children's Home does too, and they need your help. Your support can make a huge difference in the lives of these kids. Whether it's a small donation or some of your time, every bit counts. WhatsApp 065-884-6699 and find out how you can lend a hand. Gift a Child Children's Home, because every child deserves love and hope.
702.
The Naked Scientist.
We are speaking to the Naked Scientist. This is 7:02 afternoons. My name is Mabotja. I'm in for Relebogile Mabotja, and it's 9 minutes before 3. All right, let's take some calls. Mike, you're in Sandton, and you've got a question about eczema. Good afternoon. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chris. I hope one of your strong subjects at med school was dermatology.
I hope you can hear you. Can you hear
I
that?
can't hear Mike at all.
Okay. So, Mike, we're just going to make sure that Chris can hear you. I've just put Mike back to the producers, and we'll try and get him back on. Maybe let's go to KK in Diepkloof. KK, good afternoon. Thank you for your call. Go ahead.
Afternoon, Dr. Smith. My point is, yes, my point is that it has been reported that if men have sex frequently or regularly, it prevents prostate cancer or prostate enlargement. Okay, let's put that on women who are on menopause, because the hormones are low and then the appetite for sex is very minimal. Doesn't that cause or promote prostate cancer or prostate enlargement for men?
So the question is, does sex reduce the risk of prostate cancer? Can I distill the question to that line?
That's what it sounds like, yes.
Yeah. And the answer is, it appears so. Now, people have not done an interventional blind study here, which would be quite hard to do under those circumstances, wouldn't it? But what they have done is an observational study. People have looked at self-reported frequency of sex, and they've looked at risks of prostate cancer and prostate enlargement. And there is evidence that if you have regular sex, as in very regular sex, because once a year is regular, but if you had sex, say, more than 3 days out of 4 in a month, then
I'm sorry, did you say once a year is regular?
Well, it is. If it's every year, once a year is regular. It's not frequent. So the point I'm trying to make is it's regular, and it's about, I think they're saying about 21 times a month was the number I saw. So if you have that sort of level of frequency, this is protective against prostate cancer. I don't think we know exactly what the mechanism is for why that should be the case. Okay. I also don't think there's any evidence that reduces the risk of natural prostate enlargement. As we get older, all men will undergo what's called benign prostatic hyperplasia. Hyperplasia means increase in the number of cells. So the prostate gets larger with age because it grows and it continues growing through life. this is driven by testosterone to an extent. And as a result of that, I don't think there's any impact of sex on that. But for prostate cancer, there does appear to be a protective effect.
All right, KK, I hope that was helpful.
It was.
Okay. All right, all the best then. That's KK in Diepkloof there, that question on prostate cancer as well as sex. All right, let's take some voice notes.
Afternoon, Naked Scientist. I would like to know about fruits and veggie. When a fruit or veggie is rotten, does it still have can we still find vitamins like as if it is still fresh, or even if it's not like rotten but not fresh, does it still have vitamins?
All right.
Obviously, a healthy diet full of fruits and vegetables, and you're supposed to eat 5 portions of fruit or veg per day, which is consistent with the best health. And this is a large study that was done in the UK, actually, about 10, 15 years ago. It's called the EPIC study, and they actually looked at people's reported intake of fruit and vegetables and married that up with health outcomes. And they found that 5 portions a day does appear to be consistent with the best health outcomes. Now, what do we eat fruit and vegetables for? We eat it because, as is alluded to in the question, there's micronutrients in fruits and vegetables for a start. This can include vitamins like vitamin C, really important for healthy skin. You can also get vitamin E from things like nuts as well, but vitamin E from some things. And you get lots of B vitamins from eating fresh fruits and vegetables. Lots and lots of good B vitamins, which you need for healthy nerves, brains and blood. Now, if fruit or vegetables go rotten, the reason they are going rotten is because microorganisms are dying before you do. Everything is broken down on Earth by microbes, fungi and bacteria chiefly, and the fungi are way ahead of the march. They're really good at this. They get their tentacles, called hyphae, into your food, and they secrete various digestive substances which degrade the material, and then they draw up the nutrients. So if something's going rotten, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but it means that it may have lost some of its nutritional value, or you might not want to eat it, which is not as good. You can also get poisoned by rotten food, but not all the time. I mean, it's not a given just because something's got fungus in it, it's going to be bad. Cheese, for example, is made by making milk go mouldy.
Yes.
So not all moulds are bad. And alcohol is made by yeasts, another form of fungus, and no one would dispute the fact that there are some beneficial effects from that. So it's not a given just because something's going a bit mouldy that it's bad. In some cases, the mould makes things taste better and can even liberate calories. And chocolate tastes the way that it does because when we harvest chocolate, they actually leave the chocolate to develop a layer of mould all over the pods, the pips inside the pods. And that mould imparts the flavour to the chocolate when you then grind it up and eat it. So it really comes down to different foodstuffs, whether they're safe or not when they have gone mouldy, and whether being mouldy has imparted tastes, textures, flavours and other nutrients or not. So it really is on a case-by-case basis, this one.
Okay. Here I was thinking, why would anyone want to have rotten fruit or vegetables? But thank you for breaking that down for us, Dr. Chris. Dr. Chris Smith is the Naked Scientist. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for your time.
See you next time.
All right. That's the Naked Scientist, Dr. Chris Smith, answering all your science questions. It's always interesting for me to hear the type of questions that people have, hey, and how, it can vary, right, from health and just some of those that you never really think about. And I really appreciate it when you send those through. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your contributions. And of course, he will be back next week as a resident contributor right here on Afternoons with Relebogile Mabotja.
More than 5,700 cases of cervical cancer are reported in South Africa each year. Sadly, more than 3,000 women in our country die from this disease annually. But there is hope. We have intensified the war against this deadly disease. Over the past few years, more than 3.6 million girls have benefited from the HPV vaccination program that protects them from cervical cancer. We are accelerating this program to ensure that millions more of our young girls are protected from this preventable disease. The success of this campaign depends on collaboration among all stakeholders, especially parents and caregivers who are required to give consent for their daughter to participate in the vaccination program. For more information, visit your nearest healthcare facility. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Health.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? With Specsavers buy one, get one offer, you get great value for money. Get a free pair of branded single vision prescription sunglasses up to 3,300 Rand when you purchase a comprehensive eye examination and spectacle frames with lenses on your first pair. The best part? Choose from top brands like Police, Hugo, Under Armour, Tommy Hilfiger, Red Bull Spect and more. Affordable eye care? Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
All right, this does bring us to the end of the Monday edition of 702 Afternoons. My name is Modise. I've been in for Relebogile Mabotja this afternoon. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your WhatsApps and your calls. We do it again tomorrow between 1 and 3 p.m. For now, though, it's goodbye.
This is EWN.
Former NPA head says a lack of resources hampered prosecution of TRC cases, and new guard rises as young leaders vie for DA Federal Congress nominations. Good afternoon, I'm Maki Malapo. Former National Director of Public Prosecution